We've looked at how issues get in your tissues, but how do you keep them out of your tissues? That's a conversation that takes us into connective tissue and your nervous system. Let's go. Stress and trauma can imprint in the fascial matrix. This can show up like bracing, holding, flattening, collapsing, a hypervigilant tone. And that can sound a little woo-woo, but think, if a loved one comes into the room, you can immediately assess their mood, and it's because of the tone of their connective tissue. Like the nervous system, fascia responds faster than thought. Remember that 80 to 90% of the fascial nerve endings are interoceptive. So it's like they're designed to sense your inner environment and then express that on the outside. One body worker uses the term insult to describe events like big T trauma, little t trauma events, but also everyday stressors that tend to get stuck in your tissue. With insults, the tissue tightens and restricts, and then it can further dysregulate the nervous system. You might be intellectually fine, but your body is telling a different story. And then this narrows your window of tolerance. Here's an example. In-laws staying at your house. You're fine, no one's going to hurt you or harm you, but it may be a tense environment, and your body might start to stiffen in response. Because the body is stiffer, tighter, restricted, your breathing is going to be stiffer, tighter, restricted, and all of this starts to signal to the body and the nervous system not safe, not comfortable, not at ease. And then your window of tolerance gets narrower and narrower. You can do things like myofascial release, somatic release, functional breathing to unwind these natural defense mechanisms in the body. Remember that hydration is communication for fascia. Your connective tissue is a fluid-filled network, and movement, rolling, breathing all water the connective tissue from within. Well-hydrated connective tissue conducts information more clearly and can help the nervous system calm down and also update its map of safety and possibility. While it's tempting to always want to be in ease and grace, comfort and safety, issues and insults are invitations to expand your window of tolerance, self-generate safety, and even unravel old tension patterns you might not even know you're holding. When you're using connective tissue to calibrate your nervous system, it's not about fixing, but softening, releasing, and self-generating safety. Recall that 80 to 90% of the nerve endings in your connective tissue are interoceptive. So they're reading your inner environment and then expressing it outward. This means that shifts in your structure and your posture are a response to your internal state. And you can use those shifts in your structure and posture to read your internal state, to know more about what's going on inside of you. Then you can also use your structure and your posture to change your internal state. This becomes valuable when we start looking at the window of tolerance. There is a zone where you can handle whatever is coming your way. This is like the batting cage metaphor from the overwhelm episode. Outside of that zone, you get frustrated, agitated, panicked, or you drop down and you're numb, dissociated, catatonic. Your body will tell the tale of where you're at. When you're in the window of tolerance, you'll be open, receptive, your posture will be upright, your chest is open, throat is open, face is more responsive. When you start to get into that agitated zone, you'll feel the tension in your body, especially in the shoulders, near the neck, maybe in your lower back. You'll start to do different things with your hands and feet. You may start to move more quickly. In that dropped down, catatonic, numb, dissociated state, you have a flat affect. You're not as expressive. You're more likely to be curled and wrapped around your center with your body very protective. So you can watch your tissue, your structure, your posture, and know where you are in terms of your nervous system. For example, I can tell everything I need to know by how I'm cleaning the dishes. Is it frantic and panicked and agitated, or is it shut down and numb and in despair that they're never going to end, because they never are? Or am I easily, gracefully doing the dishes? And there are likely areas and arenas of your life that if you watch, they will tell you volumes about your nervous system And again, the posture, the structure, the tone of your tissue is a fabulous signal. Here's the good news and the bad news. You grow at the edge of your window of tolerance. So when you can pick up on the signs and signals of your body, you can then pause at that moment where you're crossing the threshold into frustration, agitation, or panic, or when you're starting to drop down into numbness, dissociation, catatonic. It's never comfortable in that place. In fact, the sign that you're there and you're widening your window of tolerance is that it's extremely uncomfortable. I feel like life is a Brillo pad in those moments. But if you can stick with it, you will grow your capacity and your stress response and your resilience. And you may even begin to look forward to these challenges, which is the recipe for anti-fragile. A few more notes for when you're at the edge of your window of tolerance. Discomfort is a sign of success. Every moment, every minute you spend there is a win. So often I am careening on the edge and I start to see it as failure. But a well-calibrated nervous system is not one that's flatlined. It's one that has flow and flux. You can literally ride the waves of life. So when you find yourself on the edge in discomfort, it is a win. And all time you spend there is a victory because you are literally widening your window of tolerance and expanding your capacity to handle stress and strain on your system. Another important note, when you're at the edge of your window of tolerance and you do practices to calibrate, it will often feel like it's not working because you're still at the edge of your window of tolerance. But if you're not escalating into the sympathetic response, that agitated, panicked, frantic state, or you're not dropping down into numbness, dissociation, that is a win. And sometimes practices are literally what keep us hanging on the edge. There's a magic ingredient for widening your window of tolerance, and it is willingness. Willingness to be in that place of discomfort, willingness to look at the signs and signals coming from your body, willingness to be with the signs and signals coming from your body. And we have a tool called the scale of integration that helps you assess where you're at and apply willingness and see success, especially when things are difficult. So in this model, we have an event, and it's meant to be very generic because this could be an event that happens to your body, like you have knee pain, or it can be an event like your in-laws are coming to visit. Let's use the physical body for an example first. So you have knee pain and you start to get signs from your body. There's discomfort. Maybe it hurts a little bit in a lunge, or when you're going up the stair, or when you're doing a certain activity, or on the 4th mile of your run. But there will be slight discomfort in the beginning, a sign. If you do not respond to the sign, it will get louder. There will be symptoms. For example, now your knee hurts kinda all the time and it's aching at night when you're sleeping. Or now it bothers you going up every stair. It hurts the whole run rather than on mile 4. So there starts to be dysfunction and deterioration. If you continue to put it off, if you do not respond to the sign signals, then the symptoms, you eventually have disintegration, some type of contraction. Now you have a significant injury, you can't run, you're looking at surgery or some type of treatment, and you have lost the ability to do some of what you know and love. You can see that there's an unwillingness to be with what is and to respond to what's happening. On the other side of the coin, if you get signs, signals, even symptoms, and you allow it into your awareness, you're receptive and you're willing to work with it, then you start to explore. You get new information and experience transformation, and then there's integration and expansion. So here's the knee example again. You get the pain in the knee when you're going up the stairs, or you're doing a lunge, or a mile 4 on your run. You're like, I should pay attention to this. I should receive this information coming from your body, and I'm willing to work with it. So maybe you do different things in your posture practice, or you do some functional training to strengthen the muscles around your knee, or you do some end range of motion conditioning so you can run farther with less pain, or you work on your breathing. So you got new information. Now you're experiencing transformation, and then there's some type of integration and expansion. And even if you don't have the best possible outcome forever, you still learn and grow from going in this direction. So let's say you went all the way down the other end of the spectrum with the knee, you had surgery, but then you come out of it and you're aware, you're receptive, you're willing to work with what's happening. Now you get new information, you experience expansion and integration. You can become a better human from it. Now, similar but different, you have the knee surgery and then you're a grump, and that becomes your contracted state for the rest of your life. And we all know people who had an event occur, and rather than being willing to let it in and grow from it, they become contracted and to a certain degree a victim from it and because of it. Here's the emotional example. The in-laws come to visit. That's the event. You start getting signs and signals from your body. You're a little uncomfortable. You start to be a little edgy. Some comments start to bother you. If you don't let it into your awareness, if you don't receive it and are willing to work with it, you try to clamp down. If you try to stuff it down and endure it, you'll get symptoms. There will be more dysfunction and deterioration. You'll start to be outside your window of tolerance. And part of the dysfunction is in the nervous system, and our prefrontal cortex literally goes offline. And eventually there may be disintegration and contraction. That's like dropping down into that numb, catatonic, just going through the motions state. Instead, imagine you start to get some of those signs and signals and symptoms. You may even get a little contracted, but you listen. You let it into your awareness and you're receptive to it. You're willing to work with it. And then you can do something. Maybe you go on a walk. Maybe you do some deep breathing. Maybe you run an errand and spend an extra amount of time in your car. You eventually explore, experiment, and expand. And then you're integrated and you can show up as a better version of yourself. The scale of integration encourages us to allow things in, be willing to work with them, because it always leads to a more integrated and expanded state. And you can use the state of your tissues, your structure, your posture to help you navigate the signs and signals coming from your body. And remember, at the edge of your window of tolerance is where transformation occurs. It is uncomfortable, absolutely. But every moment you are there is a victory. Stay with it. If you like this, we have practices for calibrating your nervous system in the app. There's a whole series in curated collections. We also have the Nervous System Navigator and a 6-week journey to make practice miraculous, where you learn to listen to your body and respond intelligently.